Right now you join us, TFL Inside SEMA. We are taking an inside look at the really cool builds here. And today on TFL Bike, we're talking to Chuck with Screamin Eagle Performance about this. This is a King of the Baggers Harley-Davidson, and this was raced by Kyle Wyman, right?
Yes, this is the bike Kyle raced at all three events, Atlanta, Road America, and Laguna Seca. He took second at Atlanta, first at Road America, and first at Laguna Seca to clinch the title.
And there is a ton that's done to this bike to make it high performance. These are obviously very far from stock Harley-Davidsons, and starting with this engine. So this starts life as a 131 crate engine, and then what else do you guys do to it to make it race prepped?
So it's a pretty simple modification. We do a camshaft change, so the stock bottom end is the same as the 131. Then the top end, the heads, we run a slightly different porting, and then we run our larger throttle body on it.
Okay, so nothing too major. Those are things that a lot of people could probably modify themselves in the aftermarket, I would think.
Yes. Yeah, it's very easy mods. They're fairly common mods in the industry.
Okay, and then I see that there's a lot of carbon fiber around this bike. So how close are these fairings to the shape and everything of the original? And how much does this bike weigh?
So the fairing is an exact duplicate of the original. Size-wise, it is done in a lighter weight carbon fiber. The race weight of the bike is 625 pounds per the rules.
Okay, and I see that, like you said, it is kind of an exact replica. This is where some of your factory equipment, speakers and everything would go. So it is pretty much a factory style fairing, just made out of a better material.
Correct. The inner fairing is actually a stock piece. It's one of our color match pieces.
Okay.
And then we made a mount for the oil cooler to mount where the headlight would, and we run the carbon fiber outside.
Now these racing bikes, they're required to have a full fairing, they're required to be a certain weight, there's some amount of bagger that has to remain in them, but then of course you go around and there's tons of race equipment, especially like in the suspension. Looking at this swing arm down here, that's completely custom. And tell me a little bit about this chain setup.
Okay, so to get the ground clearance, we wanted to raise the bike approximately 5 inches. Per the rules, you're not allowed to modify crankcases, and there happens to be a bolt between the primary and the transmission that is close to the chain. So we came up with an idler gear on top of the swing arm to allow us to get around that boss that's in the primary, and that's how we are able to raise it up. Then we came up with a tensioner system underneath to guarantee we have proper tension as we're going around corners and over different rumble strips and whatnot.
And then of course a totally custom swing arm, and then the reason that you want to have more ground clearance is so that these bikes can lean further without scraping their pegs, right?
Correct. Yeah, we get as much lean angle as we can. It's amazing how far they will go over. Kyle and Travis Wyman both race them, and they will grind them all the way into the exhaust.
Really?
I believe there's some marks on this one yet.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of race wear on it.
You can see down on this lower collectors where they start to rub. We've modified the exhaust and raised it multiple times throughout the year as they've worn through the exhaust system.
Yeah.
Right through the welds.
Actually worn holes in it?
Yeah, the welds would get worn away and the pipe itself would flatten out.
And then just a lot of really interesting looking components. This cone here at the end of the exhaust is unique. I haven't seen that before. Is that like a spark arrestor? Or?
So that is just to allow some back pressure. With the cam we're running and the very short, large exhaust, we get a really big torque dip in the 3 grand range. So we found by putting that on there, in that orientation, we can fill in that torque dip and give them a more consistent drive out of the corner so they can control how the torque curve comes on.
Was that based on something from another bike that you guys had built, or is that a totally unique, out-of-the-box idea?
That's an aftermarket piece that we found. I think it goes in sprint car headers or something like that.
Very cool.
We just, as we're developing the parts, this is really a skunk works for us.
Yeah.
So we're just applying everything we can, pulling from wherever we learn, and then put it into this product. Whatever we learn here, we're going to roll right back into our street product.
So then a couple other quick things, especially while we're talking about the motor, power output. You guys have had this on the dyno, right?
Yes. It's about 162, 163 horsepower at the rear wheel.
Nice.
Torque is in the 150, 160 range as well. So it's a pretty massive torque curve.
Yeah.
Which you need to get these heavy bikes out of the corner.
And it is wild to watch these going around the track and seeing how easy they get that back end loose. There is a lot of torque. And then looking at this rear suspension, obviously Öhlins suspension front and rear. We're at the Öhlins tent right now. And what a crazy setup. I love these remote reservoirs and the adjustments on the top that are exposed at the back here.
Yeah, to get the ride height we wanted and everything, we had to keep a stock frame to the suspension pickup points, to the shock point.
Right.
And then we created our own billet carriers for the saddlebags and the adjusters.
And then you said there's a kit similar to this?
Yeah, we do offer a rear shock kit with the remote mounted reservoirs for street glide, road glide, the whole touring line. So.
Well, this is very cool. Thanks again for walking me around it.
Appreciate it.
And
thank you.
If anybody wants to start doing some modifications like this to your bike, it's actually pretty awesome that there's parts like these available. I mean, you're probably not going to build something this extreme, but the fact that you can go for more aggressive suspension, a 131 crate engine, cool to see. I like this. This is very different.
Great. Thanks for taking the time to check out the bike.
Absolutely. We'll catch you guys in the next video.